Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm your host, Harmony, and I am here with Russell Case.
Harmony, you told me yesterday that I think that you've given up Jesus. Is that what you said? And you've decided to become a Wiccan.
Yeah, I wanted to follow my Celtic heritage.
Oh. I was sort of feeling like in the Christmas spirit, and I'm kind of feeling like it's a very pagan holiday.
I think it is. We've transformed it, haven't we? Well, we're here to talk to Mara Branscombe. I said it right?
You said it
Awesome.
right.
Good morning, Mara. How are you?
We're going to talk about some rituals, I think.
Are we?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. How are you doing, Mara?
I'm just making sure that my AirPods are connected because right now they are not connected.
Oh, interesting. You sound good. You sound like you're mic'd.
It's interesting. I'm not, but I'm going to go back. Let's see.
Can you go to the settings? Maybe I need to pause it.
Might use another headset. Sorry, guys.
Okay, that's fine. So today our guest is Mara Branscombe. Hello, Mara. I think we're going to talk a little bit about rituals and maybe some remedies and some pagan wisdom, I hope.
Yes. We will.
I was listening to this radio show yesterday. I forget which one, but they were talking about spirit cookies, and these spirit cookies being
I'm sorry.
Yes, they're called spirit cookies, and it being like a transactional thing that in the Scottish Celtic religion, and it's also within the native, like the traditional, like some of the tribes, the indigenous tribes of Canada also have a similar ritual, which is kind of weird and interesting, but leaving out these sugar cookies for the spirits, for these different types of spirits, in exchange for them to like do things like find the lost necklace or, bring a good birth or make money. I don't know, different things. And then I was thinking, oh, that's just like Santa, actually, isn't it?
Like the origins of Saint Nicholas.
Yes.
Before all of this material consumption took place, there was a lot more reciprocity, in fact, in the world.
Yeah.
And that was probably the baseline of I offer this, may I receive this.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that seems to be the whole thing for Christmas for me at this point, is that it's just a nice time to think about other people and think about, what they might like. And I guess that does have a lot to do with material consumption, but it's also just nice to kind of think about somebody and really what they might be interested in. And that seems to be the whole of it for me. I don't have any kind of other association to Christmas at this point.
It's weird, isn't it?
And it's also, it's kind of, it's colorful. It's in a very bleak, dire situation that we find ourselves in.
Especially in Canada, as you can relate up there in Whistler. Nice to have some warmth.
Yes, for sure. Some light and warmth. And, we just had winter solstice. So I led a winter solstice ceremony last night. In fact, it was at 1:48 p.m. Pacific time on December 21st. It always changes times. But this is a really important part of my spiritual frequency, I would say, is attuning to the solstices and the equinoxes as some of the bigger holidays that I celebrate and honor. And they
what did you do?
No gifts, simple presents.
Gifts, yeah.
Yes. Well, gifts
no
for the
gifts,
earth,
but simple presents.
Yeah. So, winter solstice is, and for your listeners, if they aren't aware, so it is the shortest day and the longest night of the year. And there's this cosmic alignment in the universe that, the sun and the moon stand in a moment of stillness together. So it's a reflection of how we too can pause and be in inward reflection, be in stillness, and allow ourselves to honor both the dark aspects of the shadow of what we're currently working with in our lives, the challenges, the conflicts, the triggers, the drama, and to allow that to really to come forward and to be seen, to be honored, to be respected, to be revered as teachers and wisdom, and then to welcome the return of the light, to welcome. So now today we have, the first day after solstice is we're increasing our light. We have more light now. And I know those are, in Calgary, that's really big because it
Yeah.
is, very cold there. And so, these markings and these holidays, what they do, and, what I love to guide myself and others into, is that it allows us to be more connected to our environment. And when we are more connected to our environment and our ecosystem, naturally we are more connected to our internal environment and our internal ecosystem. So therefore being an act of reciprocity with oneself to one's environment.
I love that.
I'm not sure that we properly introduced Marie. Would you mind if I could just introduce you to our listeners for a moment?
Sure.
You've written something really really beautiful here. It's Mara.
Yes.
Mara Branscombe is a mother, writer, yogi, artist, teacher, mindfulness leader, ceremonialist, and spiritual coach. And you're the author of Ritual as Remedy, Embodied Practices for Soul Care. And also this is intriguing. Sage, huntress, lover, queen, access your power and creativity through sacred female archetypes. But that's fantastic.
I love everything about that.
Right. I'd love to talk about both those books. I'd love to talk to you about how you came to be all of these things and the arc in your life, and how you come to be out in the middle of Whistler on
On
the
a
winter
cold,
solstice.
yeah, cold
That's
solstice eve.
fantastic.
Well, my dream would be to be living full time on a large piece of land. And I have done that, and I have lived off the grid in my life. So that's probably an arc that happened for me as I had the good fortune of living in the Kootenays and Nelson. I lived in the Nelson for some time. Yes, I am a
Yeah.
Kootenay dweller.
Mhm.
I have been, and I was able to live in a tiny cabin, on a 100-acre piece of land with two to three of those acres being an organic farm garden. So that was 2 years, and there was no electricity, and that was after probably 6 years of tree planting. I was also a tree planter, so I'm just going to give you a little the highlights that
Yes,
really
please.
did shift the arc of my life. I went to India. When I was 21 for an entire year, India, Thailand, and Nepal, and studied yoga, changed my life. Lived in the cabin, more changing of life, studied to be a Waldorf teacher. So I am a Waldorf teacher, and in fact was a kindergarten teacher in Nelson, and it also changed my life. Absolutely brilliant teachings and deep spiritual inquiry. And, all of that, the yoga has been very strong, meditation. And I studied with a group of women called Sisters of the Shields. In fact, starting when I was 18 years old, so very formative time for me, studying the Celtic Wheel of the Year, pagan traditions. I'm English, Scottish, and Irish, so very, attuned to that frequency. And and I'm a dancer and an artist. So all of these things, have kind of woven the tapestry of the calling, which is now me sharing it through words. I'm still teaching a lot, and I lead international retreats, and I love that. And I love, what I love most is, right tucked into my heart, right at the center, is to empower others to live the life they want, and to allow them, to give them tools to express in the ways that they want and they desire and that they feel called to in the world.
That's so beautiful.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It says that you were studying world religion at university. Was that in Canada?
Yeah, that was at Bishop's University, in fact, in Quebec, and it was like a double major. I did actually women's studies and religious studies.
Well, how do you leave college and then find yourself in India? That's such an it seems like there was some choices made. You didn't just get shanghaied.
Yes, right. Yes, and choices that just presented themselves to me. And so what happened was, actually I found BKS Iyengar's Light on Yoga
Yeah.
when I was 18 in the library. This is pre-internet, because I
Yeah.
was doing a project on Eastern philosophy. And so there I was in that section. And then there was his, that big, beautiful blue book, pulled it out. And then, I had been a gymnast my whole childhood. So I was very attuned to my body. And then after I retired from gymnastics, which was just shortly before I went to university, in fact, then,
Wow.
I was like, I opened the book up and I said, oh, I think I can do this. I know how to do this. I'm going to start studying this on my own. So I would do that like every day, just myself in that book, as part of my like self-care, as part of staying even keeled in my body and mind. And so then, that sparked, I met some other people tree planting, in fact, in Canada's north
Yeah.
that were practicing yoga. And I had never been in a class before or anything because there was no classes then. This is 25, 27 years ago, right? So um, then I found an opportunity to go to India, and I went. And
What?
that was instead of doing my, I was going to go to graduate school, and I changed gears. And instead, I bought that ticket to Asia. And my parents were like, "Whoa, what are you doing? What is going on here?" And so, yeah, changed
That's
my
so
life.
funny. That's such a familiar story for me because I did a degree in philosophy and a degree in
Uh,
religious studies, and also was planning to go back and do a master's and a PhD and have that sort of in my heart, in my mindset, and then bought that ticket to India, which led to then moving to Thailand and traveling between Thailand and India and, just being there for the next 4
yes.
years of my life. So,
But
yeah.
Amazing.
but how
Amazing.
do you come to live there for a year? It's one thing to say I'm going to go to India and you spend a month, trekking around, but then like to make that kind of leap and those sorts of, how did you manage that?
Well, and I was volunteering, teaching actually in schools. So that's how
Okay.
I loved doing that, both in
Oh.
Nepal and India. And in Thailand, I wasn't, but I was studying. I was doing retreats. I did a Theravada Buddhist retreat for 12 days at Wat Son Muk,
Nice.
Temple of the White Swan. And Nepal, I was doing a lot of trekking, in fact, and I was with a partner of mine at the time who was a river guide. And so he was guiding up in the rivers of Nepal, which is totally wild. And so we were kind of trekking around and doing stuff and working a bit and, living and learning. And I studied in Rajasthan and Varanasi, both 1 month sections of immersive yoga. Mhm, mhm,
Incredible.
Well,
mm,
And then
forgive me for maybe stepping back again, but I'm interested in you as a kind of 11-year-old, 10-year-old girl growing up, and did you model yourself after a particular person who
mm.
who would be this adventurous? I mean, was there someone that inspired you to I mean, these are really difficult choices to make as a 20-year-old to go and live like this. Like, how did you feel allowed to make these kind of choices?
Great question, and I feel really blessed. I'm the fourth child. So, therefore, granted a lot of permission and a lot of freedom to, I had wonderful parents, very strict, however, very conservative. And the one thing that they really gave us was the gift of nature. So that we had a little summer cabin, very humble, that we would spend. They were both teachers. My parents are both teachers. So
Oh.
yeah, I come from this, and their parents were teachers, and it's a
right.
long lineage of teachers. And so I just, I had this very strong pull and desire to really immerse myself in nature, and also I was the girl that, we received National Geographic every month, and I was like devouring National Geographic from a very young age. And I remember I actually wanted to go to Africa instead of going to university first year because I wanted to do this exchange program. I wanted to go live in Africa and, do this exchange program. And I was so fascinated by the African culture. And my parents were like, no, 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 no. And so I guess I'm just sharing that because I think it was just innately in me, and none of my siblings did anything like that, or, it wasn't modeled, in fact. And yet there was just this really strong desire. And I was just born, I think I was born a hippie, actually.
Yeah.
And, and I just, yeah, born a hippie, still a hippie, always be a hippie,
Yeah.
and love it. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. I'd love to hear more about this Women of the Shield. Is that what it was called?
Yes.
This group that
Yes.
you were a part of, and how that kind of also fed this love of nature and these rituals, and maybe even, inspired you to travel to other countries and dive into other cultures.
So I was blessed again with a dear friend in high school whose mom was part of this group. And again,
Oh,
I grew up, it's very Southern Ontario, conservative farm town, factory kind of town, so for her to be involved in this was quite, my eyes were like
It's a little
bright and
weird.
wide.
yeah.
And I was able to, they invited me to a full moon fire ceremony when I was 17. And then, was offered a mentorship spot. And so I would receive in the mail once a month from my mentor, who was, an elder in this group of women, um, everything about the new moon and the full moon of that, so astrology, and then some rituals to, work with, and some practices, some mind body practices. And I would receive that in the mail. And it
Amazing.
was like this membership I paid. There was like tiny little fee, like the
Yeah.
tiniest little fee. Like I wrote a check, right? So,
Yeah.
and I would. It was so special to me that existed, and it really did change my life. So that was, the beginning of this real like unity consciousness with nature, and it gave the background of why. It gave the
Mm,
background of what I was always feeling, but never had any modeling of. And in fact, that was the modeling of.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, it's beautiful. That's something that I think is always fascinated me, and I've enjoyed with the Ashtanga yoga lineage and tradition, is this really honoring the new moon and the full moon, and tuning yourself to that lunar cycle, and then even like your menstruation, like honoring those lady days, and tuning into your own cycles and your own nature. And I think that
Mhm.
something really powerful comes from sort of doing that, to training your consciousness
mm,
to be aware of these cycles and patterns happening like within you, but also
Mhm.
outside of you, and how it's a relationship, or how you can interact with them.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Yeah.
it says here as well that you were in India 2022. You were doing some volunteer teaching, some trekking. You were there a good long time. Parents very worried, and then you you sailed across the Atlantic Ocean.
Mhm.
How did that's just another like an extraordinarily courageous choice to
On a big
make on a
boat.
big boat, and then maybe probably felt tiny at the time, and then
Yeah.
your parents are just frightened out of their mind, like they have extra children, but still.
Good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, good thing. Yeah, so the sailing was, again, just wow, the most epic and wonderful adventure, remarkable, and it came to be also through a little yoga connection, I will tell you. How beautiful. I was up in, the Yukon,
Mhm.
in fact, in Whitehorse,
Yeah.
and I was living up there for the summer after a season of tree planting, and I got a job working with Canadian River Expeditions, helping them out on the Tatch and Sheeny 14-day river trips. And on this particular trip, so clients come and they pay, a great amount of money to go on these 14-day river trips, and it's very eco-conscious and unbelievable.
Yeah.
So the captain and the chef of this 105-foot sloop boat
Mm-hmm.
were guests on the trip. And so they we would practice yoga in the morning because, well, the chef in particular was a yogi. And
Ah.
so her and I would go and do practice, in the morning, 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I said, if you ever need crew, let me know. And sure enough, 1 month later, I got the phone call. Hey, we're going to do an Atlantic crossing. You want to join us? And
Absolutely not.
yeah. Yeah, so I said yes, and it turned out to be an
Amazing.
amazing, another kind of year adventure because it was 44 days to cross. But the bonus
Wow.
that I received was that I got to live on the boat in the Caribbean for like 2 months and work on other boats. And then, and
Right.
then I went, we traveled basically from Florida to Athens, Greece. And then I traveled
Oh,
around Greece and Turkey also. And yoga was
oh,
always part of it. Isn't it amazing? Like once you start practicing, then you instantly connect with other yogis. Then all of a
Yeah.
mm,
sudden you're practicing in these other locations. I was practicing in Turkey with other yogis that I
Yeah.
had met. I was practicing in Greece with yogis from the Ashtanga lineage, in fact. And then I ended
mm,
up living at their house for a while. Because there's this common energy
Yeah.
that
mm,
is so inspiring to be around.
mm,
Mm-hmm. I love picturing you on a boat. I've always imagined what it would be like to take that big journey across the Atlantic. And because I think like I have this romantic sort of image of like the Titanic, like these big like ships, of the in the 1800s crossing and like living on these ships and just like what an epic journey that would
Yeah,
have been.
yeah.
And you lived it, which is incredible.
Wow, this was a modern boat, no Titanic, very
Yeah.
modern. And I'll tell you the gift was the dolphins. I would sit
Mm.
at the
mm,
bowsprit
mm,
on calmer days, not when we were in 25-foot swells. We wouldn't do that then. We were all harnessed in,
mm.
Oh
honestly,
my
25-foot
gosh.
swells. Now I'd sit at the bowsprit and I'd dangle my feet and I'd clap my hands. And the dolphins would come and they'd come in unison and they'd
Wow.
and they'd build they because they were riding the bowsprit, right? It's like a free
Mm.
ride. And they'd start playing and spiraling. And I received the message from them to pursue my dance career. And as weird and wild as that sounds, it was very true, very real. I received a deep calling and message to go and pursue that dance career that I always wanted to and I never did. And so I did.
Wow.
Yeah, after
And
that, yeah.
where did you do that? And what did that look like?
Yeah, so the dance trainings happened in Vancouver. So I was a Waldorf teacher for 2 years, and then I realized, I actually had a dream, and I shot right out 90 degrees in bed in the middle of the night, and I said, I have to give my notice. I'm going to go to dance school. I went, so that's what happened. So I
That's
moved back to
incredible.
Vancouver. Yeah, it was very, we don't get those that often. You get
No.
those real
Yeah.
strong, clear, intuitive
Mhm.
calls. I also received one to write the book, to write Ritual as Remedy, in fact. But the calling was that, to give myself that opportunity to really, be in this artistic, I'm an artist and I think we're all artists, but sometimes that artistry gets pushed down because, you have to be the teacher, you have to be
Mhm.
this, and the
Mhm.
family calls for you to grow up and step up. But my growing up and my stepping up was actually honoring that I am an artist. And so I danced for 8 years professionally after that. So
Oh, you did.
yes, I had a
Wow.
company,
Oof.
and I just stopped dancing when I had my first daughter at
Wow.
36, actually, and I
Oh,
even had my last show when I was probably about like 5 6 months pregnant or something. Um, and so the dance is built upon the yoga, the meditation, the ritual, the expressive, calling of all of these lineages, um, to really free the channels and to inspire others to do that.
was it kind of like a Pina Bausch, like modern dance, or was it like
Yeah,
more of a
contemporary.
ballerina? Oh,
No,
I
no, you
see. Yeah.
can't be a ballerina starting at that age, like
That's what I'm
yeah, it's
confused
a
about.
little much,
Yes.
yeah.
So more of a modern kind of interpretive kind of
Yes.
making
Yeah.
really making a message and then expressing
Yes,
it.
yes, like conscious, I worked for other choreographers, and then, we had our company so that we could hire other choreographers to work with us. And it was beautiful. It was a real collaborative, very artistic time in my life
Wow.
that I think, these things happen for reasons, and we build this capacity of our spirit, known or unknown at the time, so that we can then, ultimately land on some of these bigger projects that can, inspire others.
Mm. Yeah. I'd love to hear more about your book. What inspired you to write the book, and tell us about what we can find inside?
Mhm. So this book, Ritual as Remedy: Embodied Practices for Soul Care, was an online course that I taught for 4 years prior to writing this book. It was called The Art
Wow.
of Ritual. So it has some good bones to it. It had, I'd led, about 300 women through this course. And what the book is it's practical, accessible, spirited rituals that you can do to um, enhance your quality of life, to perhaps evolve out of, inner child work, or, the triggers, the stressors, the patterns that repeat themselves. So there's tools in here in this book for you to connect mind, body, spirit, to then ultimately liberate and, inspire the next, path forward. And the model of this book is based on the Celtic Wheel of the Year. So the Celtic Wheel of the Year starts in the direction of the east, spring equinox. That's the energy of the heart. Then we go down to the south. That's the element of fire. That's summer solstice. And that's our ability to transform, evolve, And then we move to the west. That's water. That's fall equinox. And that's really about our creative center. It's about the practice of letting go, of releasing what no longer serves, and pretty deep, second chakra work. So I bring a lot of the energy medicine of the chakras in. Then we go to the north. That's winter solstice. Here we are, right here, and it's the element of earth, and it's about honoring, your grounded energy, so that you can, then move into the rising. And it's also about calling, your ancestors forward, and working with your guides, and calling them forward. I really believe that we all have guides, and whatever your word is. Some people like to use the word angel, or, ones that have crossed over the other side, or we can find our guides in earth, air, fire, water, and ether. We can, but once people start to understand that they are supported, there's a radical shift that happens. We feel less alone. We feel less disconnected. We feel less overwhelmed. We feel less stressed. And we go, no, no, no. I am supported. I am here to evolve. And here I am, balancing rest to activation, balancing darkness to light, balancing my external self to my internal self. And so we just, it's tools to ride these waves.
I
So
love
if
that.
I wanted to take like Bob Dylan as my spirit guide, then
Yeah.
is there a way that I can
Yeah.
start a cyclical process of ritual to make that work better for me?
Yes, yes. You can okay, new playlist, new Bob Dylan playlist,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
every turn of the wheel. So winter solstice. So today, make a
Yeah.
new one, and then also look at his lyrics.
Uh-huh.
And then this is a great thing. Look at his lyrics, and then be inspired to write your own song, your own poem, your own blessing. That's gonna be, it's like a lot of people work that way, and I work that way in the work. Sometimes I'll read Rumi, I'll bring in the mystics and Hildegard von Bingen, and Kuan Yin, and some of these beautiful deity energies, and I'll sit with them in my morning meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll read an inspiring text, and then I'll begin my own writing. And so it's moving through in a deeper way, I believe.
And how would Harmony do this the same thing? Like you've decided to become Wiccan, I think yesterday. So would you would you also think about a particular script and sit with that script in the morning? It's important to have like a particular time of day set aside at the same time every day, or
I
can
I I think so. I mean, you could wherever you fit it in, but guess what? Life is busy, and guess what? It doesn't get done. So I'm like, get it done in the morning, girl, but you may have a different time. Some people are, they love to do some stuff in the evening. For me, I light a candle every morning. I sit in silence, I do my meditation practice, and then I visualize my day going the way I want it to go
Hmm.
without getting tripped up on the final outcome. We have to release the final outcome. It can't be part of our process, because then we get tripped up on oh, this happened, didn't happen, oh, it
Yeah.
didn't look the way I wanted it to look. So if your body becomes this channel opportunity of expansion, of openness first thing in the morning, then maybe you go into your yoga practice, or you read your spiritual texts, whatever you do. Sometimes you only have 5 minutes. So what do you do in
Mhm.
that 5 minutes? You light a candle.
Mhm.
You allow your body to become a channel of gratitude, compassion, love, whatever that is for you, moving through you. And there's a resonance there that will not be forgotten,
Mhm.
benefit you for the entire day, for the week, for this whole
Mhm.
cycle of your life.
I love that. I want to talk more about the summer solstice because it's my favorite day because it's my birthday.
Oh,
Oh, it's your birthday. That's
Yeah, and
right.
I want to
June
know what
21st. Yeah.
summer solstice rituals you would recommend.
oh yeah. Wow.
Mm.
What a great birthday you had.
Mm.
So summer solstice, yes, it's a time of, wild expansion, childlike wonder. I can even see that in you. It's beautiful. You're light. You're expansive light. So summer solstice is a time to um, create a massive outdoor altar with all the things that are, um, all the colors and the flowers that light you up. And I would say make a circle, a ring of all of the things like that. Maybe it's from your garden, maybe it's from the farmer's market, maybe it's from, stuff that's in nature that you feel it's okay to either pick, or it's fallen on the earth, or it's about to, end its cycle of bloom. And yeah, so you make this incredible altar outside, and then you put your candles on the inside, and you allow yourself to be steeped in the light. So summer solstice is the sun gives and gives and gives and never asks for anything in return.
Mm.
It's like wild,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That capacity. So can we be like that capacity on the inside of our body? So all of these things are really about, inviting in and attuning to, what's growing at the time, where the light is at, where's the moon cycle on that particular day of the solstice. It will change every year, depending on, the earth and the rotation of the moon. But I think that those are some of the, running barefoot, being barefoot,
Mm,
going, getting your body in water, natural water, lakes, rivers, oceans, that kind of thing.
wonderful. I'm tucking that away for later this
Yes.
year.
Yes. Send me a picture.
I will for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, no, you can't really like do the barefoot on the earth in -30 winter solstice time. So
Right.
it's a little bit cold for that up here in the North
Oh,
Country.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what other kinds of like rituals do you integrate into your day, or like what other types of rituals bring like healing effects for people?
Mhm. Great question. So that morning ritual could be really
Mhm.
important for some folks that are feeling like they're wanting deeper meaning in their life. So I give people a challenge of like, instead of going to your phone, you light the candle
Or your
first.
laptop,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, like
me.
you have to put the devices away. You need to actually put them away and just try it for 7 days. See how you feel. I
Yeah.
give people the 7-day challenge. Like, okay, what does that mean if you don't go to your device first thing? It means
Mhm.
you light your candle. So the candle lighting replaces the desire to go to the device.
Mhm.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
then you can have your warm tea or coffee, but do it in the darkness. So don't turn on any lights. So you're
Mhm.
in natural light. And then you call forward your gratitudes. Then you may have a journal practice first thing. So those are really healing for the morning. And then, being in nature once a day without distraction. So, a lot of us have dogs, and it's a wonderful way to also be in nature. But turn your phone off so you're not constantly distracted. And then when you're in nature, there's some wonderful techniques to welcome in, is that you are as connected to the forest as the trees are connected to each other. So you can kind of move into nature with let the snow laden conifers, like, let that energy kind of come into your body. Let the sunrise in. Let the colors of the sunset into the center of your body, specifically into your organs. Like, you can just start to visualize and imagine that. That's a very healing practice. So that's kind of like nature infusion. Another great practice is blessing our food. So we sit and take a moment to place your hands over your food and just track, where did the food come from?
Mm-hmm.
What seeds were planted for this food to be? What were were there farmers that grew this? If you eat animal byproducts, you thank the animals for giving their life to you for that. So just, and that also is just very, it doesn't have to be this long drawn out process, but it is a consciousness. And then, also with the evening ritual, another great example could be, you know, make it, like I say, bookend your day with some sort of conscious, kind act to yourself. So how you wake up, make it a little bit spiritual. What does that mean to you? Make it spirited. If the word spiritual doesn't work for you, then how do you go to bed? Make it spirited. So maybe it's like you give yourself a foot massage with lavender, or you rub your temples, with lavender oil. You there's some sort of warming practice. If you're cold, then you need to have like a warm shower, or a warm bath before bed. We have to put ourselves into this place where we can rest. Another great thing that I find very effective is, at the end of the day, you say, this is my work is done for the day. A job well done. I release work now. So I come into the dream time. May the dream time bring to me any clues or cues on my healing journey at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have that journal beside your bed. And, sometimes you do wake up at 3 a.m. And instead of being mad, you just go, oh, is there something I need to maybe scribble down in this journal right now? Or is it just like, be at peace? Because once we start to activate these rituals, it's like we can be more at peace with some of the challenging pieces in our life.
That's so interesting, because I it's something that I'm really, what I really want for our child is to have a sense of wonder and a sense of fascination with nature, because I think it's incredibly helpful for us as human beings, because otherwise we look at nature, we look at our circumstances, our surroundings, and we might feel boredom. And I think boredom is so pernicious. And I think my own particular training as a painter is and as a yoga student has given me like a superpower to transform boredom into wonder. And anything that I look at or anything that I feel can be transformed into a kind of, you know, s- supernatural state of like exquisite bliss just by noticing it. Like, oh, I'm bored, but the look at the light on this chair. Ah, it's exquisite.
Mm-hmm.
Or the look at the naked tree branches outside the car window. It's exquisite. And I want to somehow help my child tap that sense of wonder, and not just sometimes a child can be stuck in a state of misery and just like, oh, just give me my fucking phone, dad.
Oh no.
you know and so
Yeah.
how do you've got children now, like,
Yeah,
how do
I
you
have.
do this?
How old's your child?
He's 11.
Almost 12.
Almost 12.
Okay, same.
Yeah.
Okay, so my daughter is turning 12 on January 1st.
Oh,
My
nice.
other daughter is 8. So that is a great question. And I think we need to understand age cycles in this too. So, of course, when they're younger, it's a little bit easier to impress upon the wondrous aspects of the world.
Yeah.
And as we're moving through the teenage years, it may be a little bit more challenging. So we cannot force or push. We can connect. How can you connect in a way that feels, that you're meeting your child in even the smallest way through this cycle in time? That builds love, compassion, empathy, that, getting them out in nature. And I know it's so hard when it's so cold. But these things, I think, I was reading actually in Gabor Mate's book, The Myth of Normal.
Yeah.
Great book. So, I'm reading it. I've had the great honor of studying with him a little bit over the past couple of years. Yeah. And, he talks about kids have lost, because of so much media and disconnection, they've lost their capacity to be empathic and compassionate because they're desensitized. So whatever we can do to help keep them sensitive, touch, connection, being interested in what they're interested in, all of that, like meeting them there, and then trusting, and being patient and loving. So I think, these things, and this is our work. This is our work as parents, is meeting them where they're at, and not giving up and not saying, oh no, we're doomed, he's going to be on his phone all day long, and just giving some nice boundaries around that without, shutting down. It's just it's like the ultimate yoga. It's the ultimate practice of yoga.
Yes.
I really loved what you said there about being interested in what they're interested in, because they have a sense of wonder about what they're interested in, and sharing that is a way of finding connection, which could otherwise be an impenetrable wall of contempt, mutual contempt even.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well said.
Yeah. No, parenting, I feel, is definitely the ultimate test of your yoga practice. It's like bringing it to life every minute of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And cycles pass, and we have to remember that.
Yeah.
And we can begin again, and that's something that I've learned from a dear mentor of mine, is just this very simple, let us begin again. Here I am, I begin again. And really a way to clean the slate of, what was just the trigger.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard, because then we continue to live in this triggered state, and then just go, okay. And sometimes we need a short, brisk walk. We need a tall glass of water. We need to step into another room. We need these healthy distractions, just like separate the energy, diffuse the energy, and that can teach us a lot about, like, everything in life is a ritual. Like, that's a ritual. That is like such a healthy ritual, be like knowing that you actually need to step outside the room for a moment. So you can clean the slate and begin again.
Yeah. Like the vinyasa of life.
Exactly.
We're all going to be doing laps around the house every few minutes.
In Texas, we call a beautiful woman a tall glass of water, and I couldn't agree more.
A tall glass of water. It's like refreshing for the soul.
So refreshing for the soul.
Yeah, right? There's so many metaphors there.
Beautiful. Yeah, so
I'm
many great ideas.
I'm really interested in this time in your life when you lived off the grid in a cabin. It sounds like maybe you're off the grid
It's so
in a
funny.
cabin right now, but maybe your children
No,
are on their
they're on the
phones with
grid
your
in
husband somewhere.
Whistler.
They're on we have
Mm.
electricity here. We have
Yeah.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, that time that I lived in the cabin, it was 2 years, and it was also no access in the winter. So, hike in, hike out.
Wow.
Mhm,
My
mhm.
parents have a place in the Kootenays also in the
Mm.
Crawford Bay area, so just
Oh,
across
I know
the
Crawford Bay.
ferry.
I
Yeah.
lived there as well.
You
Yeah.
Yeah.
didn't. You
Oh,
lived in
yeah.
Crawford Bay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
lived in Crawford Bay on a
I
property there.
figured.
I
Yeah.
might know your parents. Who knows?
How
Um,
far from the golf course were you?
oh, yeah, and I used to even work at the golf course, which is
Oh,
hilarious.
you would know them for sure then.
Amazing.
Yeah,
You probably served us at some point at the
probably.
restaurant.
Yeah, I was a
That
waitress
was
at
a
the golf
while
course.
back,
To
Yeah.
right?
make it to pay for my dance school tuition, that
Yeah.
was a job that I had. Yes, no, I love that area. It's so special.
Mhm.
And, in this cabin I lived, though, that was off the grid, is in Glade. So it's in between Castlegar and Nelson,
Mhm.
and it was, a like a water ferry to get there, so it was like a cable
Wow.
ferry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there was a cable ferry, and then we would, in the winter when the snow came, the road was too epic,
Mhm.
and, just not accessible at all. So we would hike the food up, hike the food down. Lanterns. We had a generator for fridge, and we had a generator for some hot water in a shower, which
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
really amazing. And
Yeah.
then otherwise, we were, oil lanterns,
Wow.
and yeah, it was amazing and very special and very kindred, informative and
Mhm.
generative. And a lot of yoga happened there
Yeah.
in front of the wood stove.
Mhm.
Um, and very much I was into, was doing a lot of herbalism, making tinctures, echinacea tinctures, making, just working
Yeah.
with a lot of herbs. Um, and we had this huge garden, and that, we were eating all our root vegetables right through the winter, and it was a very, very beautiful
Wow.
time, very in touch,
Wow.
very in harmony
Yeah.
with,
Nature.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
The natural
Mhm.
world. It's so interesting because I think those experiences almost now you have to really kind of go out of your way to create them
mhm.
because it's so foreign. Like what is natural is become foreign to us. And
Mhm.
we have to kind of really consciously either go out of our way to reconnect to nature or put ourselves in situations where we're able to connect to nature.
I couldn't agree more, and I think this is why I think it's really important to have one experience a year
Mm.
where you are living in that way.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, and we can all camp, we can have that experience. Camping is great for that experience, or, going on retreats,
Mhm.
whether it be personal or group. But a conscious, like, no to the work that you do on a daily basis, and a
Mhm.
yes to another experience, be it, yoga or writing or make painting, but something where you're like, this is how I give back to myself. This is how I fill my whole soul up. This is how I, let go of the mundane and the root of everyday life, and welcome in this very sacred time for myself. And then once we have those experiences, that's why I love going on retreats, leading retreats. I mean, they just absolutely transform. It's life changing.
Mhm.
If we have one of those, once a year, perhaps,
Yeah.
sometimes only 2 days, that's perfect, doesn't matter. Um, we're more likely to remember and live in that way. So even though we're living in the mundane of life right now, you're in
Mhm.
-30, where are where are the sacred? Where can you find the sacred?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, it comes through devotional practice, right? Devotional
Mhm.
Mhm.
creativity. That's my word for 2023. Devotional creativity.
Huh.
Beautiful.
I am so ready for it. And instead of getting caught up in the details and the deadlines, I'm going to go to myself, no, I get to do this work. How blessed am I that
Mhm.
I get to write this new book, or that I get to do this project? And so it's not what I do, it's how I do it.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I became close friends this last year, the year past, with a plumber from Fort Mac, and he lives near us in Airdrie, and he invited me to go camping out in Red Deer. And I was really excited to have this kind of outdoor experience and to camp again, to be in tune with nature. And I just watching 15 plumbers and their wives get absolutely fucking hammered was that experience, and I was really grateful for it.
I don't know if it was.
That was their interpretation.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
their interpretation of their retreat, their soul retreat.
it was a
Lose their mind.
pagan
It was a
soul
Dionysus retreat.
Yeah.
Dionysian event around the fire, and I'm really very proud that no one was burned alive. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Having these little
Yeah.
events and moments and take the time to do that.
Well, and the fact that you can see it as that, like, right? I mean, everyone has their own interpretation
That's
of,
right.
what is and what isn't, and who knows? I mean, we have our teachers. Our teachers are everywhere. I think our muses are
Mhm.
everywhere, and it's like the lens in which, the humor you can bring in, the lens in which you
Mhm.
see, the perspective, all of it. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's it.
It was actually, I mean, there was a moment there where I was watching, so it's this big camping trailer park in the woods, right? And so there's a say 500 400 people there, and they're all, these working class guys who want to have their outdoor camping experience. And
Yeah.
but what was really special about it, like really pure, was that their children, there's 200 of them, were just wild. What's that book?
Feral. Lord
Fer-
of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies, feral. And so I'm watching like 5-year-olds running amok and free in the woods for about 15 hours a day until they get hungry and they come back. I
Yeah.
was like, that's actually a cool way to grow up. I mean, your parents are out of it, but it's like you'd be hard pressed today to find a way for children to be free in the woods for days on end
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's, and there's part of that is like they find their way,
Hmm.
they find
Mm.
their way. I actually had, that's kind of a way that I grew up, is my
Hmm.
parents were very um, free. They were very social, and they had, a lot of gatherings, and there was a lot of kids, and we all found our way. But that was
Yeah.
also the style then.
Hmm.
There wasn't
Yeah.
helicopter parenting going on.
Right.
You
No.
know, it was the style of just like, you'll find your way,
Yeah.
and there's a lot to be said for that, I think.
Yeah. Parents were a lot less worried back in the
Or
70s and 80s, it feels
they
like.
were a little distracted by
Well,
whatever they were doing,
no,
and
I think also if you even go back a generation in the 50s, it was almost like kids were just like completely left to their own
Mm.
devices in some respects. So I think our style of parenting, our mode of parenting has changed a great deal from like the 1950s, where kids were like to be seen and not heard and just kind of,
Yeah.
Mhm.
ignored in a sense, to
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
gradually kind of coming up to a type of parenting style now that feels almost um intrusive to allowing children to just be children, right? So
Mhm,
it is
mhm,
an interesting kind of evolution of
mhm.
our parenting style as a culture.
Well, there's a question of what "our" means there, and who are we referring to? Because I could imagine children in English boarding school having very limited freedoms,
Yeah, yeah.
compared to, or Scottish boarding school compared to out here in the frontier.
The frontier.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it's a big wild world out there, and, yeah, I think that the more we can lean in to connect somehow
Mhm.
without controlling, being genuinely curious and interested, and listening.
Mhm.
And that's the one thing that this is a great ritual you can do with, families,
Mm.
is around the holidays and as the new year comes. And actually, winter solstice, is a time to vision for 2023. It's a time to, note the highlights of the year past, and welcome in the frequency that you're, like I shared, devotional creativity were the words that came through for me for this year. And, I do that with my girls also. So we talk about,
Nice.
we talk about, some things that they're letting go of. My 11-year-old told me she's letting go of being passive aggressive.
Oh,
That's
good for
awesome.
her. That's going to bode well for the rest of her life.
That's
I
so
was
good.
like, yes. Okay, I guess I've said that word a few times. Which is so funny. But no, and then it's really true. And so then we have a little fire, and we burn stuff. We give stuff to the fire that we're releasing. And then we call forward, when my 8-year-old said, I want to be more confident in math class. And it's like so pure, right? So
Yeah.
when you just give that opportunity without me saying it has to be look one way or the other, it's just really free what comes up. So what are some things that you feel you don't want to hold on to anymore? What are some things that you want to invite in? Just those simple things, even with your 11-year-old, you have to be in a nice, cozy state. It can't be like hungry or tired,
Yeah.
or distracted.
Mhm.
But those are really nice things, because what does that do? That brings it to the internal, and then personal internal.
Yeah.
And personal internal grows into intuition.
Mhm.
And that's what we want.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I
there's
love
something
that.
really, really fascinating about what you're doing. When I just thinking about the frontier and how we're living, we're the descendants of colonists with these old structures from the old world that maybe aren't serving us as well in this postmodern community that we find ourselves in. And so, how can we reconstruct something elemental to find a sense of space and succor for ourselves, to find something really deeply felt in our daily experience that that can that can live outside of Tupperware. and and I feel like this is what we have to do. We have to reconstruct a civilization for ourselves out here, where in this frontier that we find ourselves in.
And I couldn't agree more. And I feel that, if I may add, shifting the lens away from the colonial, patriarchal, not about man or woman there, lens, sexist, misogynist, privileged.
Mm-hmm.
When we can shift that lens and go, okay, well, how can we see this now?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually why I wrote that second book, which is not coming out until July 2023, but that's the feminine. That's the way the feminine calls. There's a paradigm shift, I believe, in our consciousness happening. And I think you said it really well, or you asked the question really well, like, well, how can we now see? How can we now live? What is the now? The energy that we can, raise ourselves and our children in this world today in a way that is, nourishing, nurturing, and free.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about the earth, Mother Earth, Gaia, and I think about the feminine lens and all she can grow, and the earth is such a teacher to us. And I feel that, her cycles and her seasons are what we move through on a daily basis also. The expansion to the contraction, that very basic, energy in life. We go out, we go back in. That's to me, a very reciprocal, nourishing energy to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it can give us faith for the future.
I think you
Beautiful.
need like a kind of witch teacher, Harmony. I think maybe Mara could help us with that.
Yeah. I love that too, because it's like connecting. I mean, humans, our societies sort of evolved, our gizmos and gadgets have evolved, our maybe workspaces have evolved, but our souls, our spirits, our essence in a way hasn't really evolved in many ways, and we still need to use these rituals to feed ourselves, to feel connected, to feel integrated. And yeah, I think that's really important to find, maybe pulling in like these old ways and creating something new or like slightly more adaptive to the kind of society that we're living in, but still holding that space to have these rituals that connect us back to nature, that connect us with ourselves, that connect us to each other also. Yeah.
And that's why I suggest honoring new moon and full moon every month. And, new moon is that internal energy. It's new beginnings. It's where we plant the seeds of our intention. Full moon is that external energy. It can be very loud and dynamic. That's why we need to track it, because if we don't track it, then we can get swept up in the drama of life and we don't understand why. And then we feel conflicted. When we understand the energies of the moon and the earth, or we're aware of them, we're observing them, we're more able to perhaps see and listen to some of the wisdom teachings that are actually coming through us. And then we can guide ourselves appropriately.
Yeah, wonderful.
Fantastic.
What's the name of your second book that's coming out in a few months?
Sage, Huntress, Lover, Queen, Access Your Power and Creativity Through Sacred Female Archetypes. It's a big title.
It's a big one.
It's a big one. And so I'm working with 7 female archetypes.
Yeah.
And what the energy is, so it's male or female, is that we can access all of the archetypes at different cycles of our life. We're not just one. We can access all of them to help us heal and evolve, so that we can be the person, so that we can express ourselves in the way that we want to in the world. And we can find true joy, true happiness, true peace. And so I work a lot with the shadow also in these archetypes, So, for example, with the mother archetype, if we have a severed relationship with our own mother, for example, or we have that inner child wounding where we felt not nourished, abandoned, etc., not heard, not listened to, not, felt, then that will cycle through, whether we have children or not. It's not about that, but it's about honoring the mother within. Then we can create, we can be grounded, we can be abundant. So it's like that. It's like really looking, and then there's meditations and rituals to work with each archetype.
Oh, cool.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Well, how can people find your works and books? What's a good place for them to look and search for?
Yeah, anywhere you buy your books. And if you want to know more about me, it's everywhere. So if you want to know more, it's just my website, marabranscombe.com. And then you will find links to all the teachings and practices and books and articles. I'm writing a lot of articles as well. So that's been, it's been lovely to share with the world.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great.
And you have a website as well, Ritual is Remedy. And could I go there to help myself find
all the stuff? And, this is my last podcast of 2022, but I do think I've done about 60 podcasts, like honestly, like just, and so there is a lot of those podcasts on the site, including yours will be. In time.
And it will be the first podcast of 2023.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of ways that folks could find support on both of those sites.
Awesome. Wonderful. And we'll put all your links in our show notes, of course, and the social media and all the things so people can find you.
And thank you very much for spending time with us.
It's been so nice. Nice to connect with another Canadian woman.
Yes. Yeah, really nice. I didn't know I was getting 2. This is like 2 for 1.
I know.
I'm
He's our token American, to like bring in the...
You can just say token. He's our token. That's
token.
He always keeps me up to date on all the conflicts of the world because he's American. So he,
in your DNA, right?
All the conflicts are in America. That's right.
We have to heal. We can
Yeah.
heal. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
And
It was
yeah,
absolutely our pleasure. I look
yeah,
forward to staying connected in the new year and getting your new book. I cannot wait. I'm so excited
great.
to read that.
Wonderful. And
Mhm.
stay warm.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.